Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We know that you're joining us from many different time zones. So if you are here for the University of British Columbia information session, you're at the right place. So we're glad that you're here. We're going to be spending the next hour or so with you, giving you an overview of UBC as well as how to apply. So my name is Michael Holliday. I'll be one of your hosts today, and we look forward to getting lots of questions from you after the presentation.
And my name is Chris Payne. I'm also a recruiter advisor here, just like Michael. And we're going to be presenting this presentation to you over the next 25 to 30 minutes. Before we get started, though, a little housekeeping to keep in mind. We definitely encourage that you ask questions. This is an interactive presentation, and please feel free to ask questions in the text box that's provided on the screen here. We are going to get to the questions at the end of our portion of the presentation, but we will be monitoring your questions as we go through. So definitely keep asking questions, and we'll start the presentation right now. Now, just for your information, this session is being recorded, and so you'll be able to go back and get the information, maybe something that you missed or something that we covered a little bit too quickly, or if there was a technical issue, you can go back and check out the information that was provided in the recording. Just a breakdown of how we're going to roll out this presentation today. The first section that we're going to talk about is studying in Canada, what it's like to study in Canada, why students choose to study here in Canada, and more specifically Vancouver and Kelowna in British Columbia. Then we'll move on to a little bit about the University of British Columbia, some of the opportunities that our students have taken advantage of here, some of the things that they've studied, some of the extracurricular activities they've done, and some of the lives that they lead here on the Vancouver campus, from where we're presenting from, and on the Kelowna campus as well. And as I mentioned before, we'll have time at the end of the presentation today for Q&A, and we'll answer your questions live here during the presentation.
And also, if you don't get all your questions answered today, we will be giving information at the end so that you can follow up with us, because oftentimes you'll have questions that come up as you go to apply. So we'll do our best to get everything answered today. There may be things that we'll have to follow up with you on later, but rest assured that we will give you contact information when we're done the presentation.
That's right. So to start it off, let's be a little bit interactive here. We want to know where you're joining us from today. So in the text box that's provided, please feel free to write the city, the country, the area that you're joining us from today. So just write that in the text box just to make sure we know that you're joining us here, and we'll see where you're coming from today. It looks like we've got someone from Germany. We've got a few people from Costa Rica, Kuwait, India, tons of different places represented. And that's really indicative of the student body here at UBC. We've got California, Oman, many different places. Seattle, just down the I-5, so great to see people in the local area as well. And then all the way down in Florida in the United States too. So that's great. Thanks so much for participating there. We've got so many different countries represented in our population. It's really cool to see that you're joining us from around the world. So again, to reiterate, good morning, evening, afternoon from wherever you're joining us from, because there's a few different time zones out there. So we're going to move on, and we are going to talk a little bit about the University of British Columbia, or studying in Canada itself. Sorry, we'll get to UBC in a minute. Many students from around the world choose to study in Canada, and there's a few different reasons for that. Canada has been consistently ranked one of the top destinations for higher education in the world. There's a few different reasons for that. One of the main reasons, though, is that out of all the G8 countries, Canada puts the most per capita in higher education than any other country. So our education system is very well supported. It's mainly a public system here in Canada, which means that there's always going to be funding for our students. There's going to be opportunities for those students as well to study a variety of different programs, ranging from the social sciences, the physical sciences, engineering, business, and everything in between. And so you'll find that across the board in Canada, there's a very high quality of not only high quality of standard of living and life, but a high quality of educational institutions across the country as well. It's a very multicultural country, as most of you know. Vancouver is a great example of that. Over half the people that live in Vancouver were actually not born in Vancouver. So it's a great microcosm for the country of Canada itself, in that we have so many different cultures, so many different nationalities intermingling in our city and across our country as well. If you've never been to Canada before, British Columbia, just to orient you to where we are, British Columbia is the westernmost province in Canada, and so we are about 3.5 hours north of Seattle in Washington State in the United States, and we're on the westernmost coast of Canada. A lot of people choose to live in British Columbia or grow up in British Columbia. They really like the climate out here. It's very atypical of that kind of traditional Canadian climate that you hear so much about. So we don't get cold winters, we don't get a lot of snow here in Vancouver, and British Columbia has a ton of outdoor recreation opportunities to take advantage of, whether it's skiing or snowboarding, whether it's fishing, whether it's hiking, surfing, all these different things that you can do throughout British Columbia, up and down the coast and into the interior and beyond of BC. And so a lot of students love the location when they choose to come and study here at UBC. Now, things about UBC itself. Why do students choose UBC? Well, the academic stands alone. We're consistently ranked one of the top 40 universities in the world. Now, there's a lot that goes into rankings, and you shouldn't base your choice of university solely on rankings when you're looking at things. But some of the things that UBC really stands out with is the access to undergraduate research that our students have. The ability to work with professors and work with graduate students here at UBC, even in your first and second year on campus, is something unique to UBC when you're looking at coming here for school. As I mentioned before, Canada is a very multicultural place and a very international location for students to come, as is UBC, as we have over 150 different countries represented worldwide in our student population. And we have many different opportunities for our students to engage internationally as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So again, the reputation in the Times Higher Education, we're 30th in the world, again, consistently ranked as one of the top research universities, also in the top 10 public universities in the world as well. And so again, being in Canada and being a public institution lends itself to a lot of different opportunities for our students. We're ranked number 1 in Canada in the HESA Field Normalized Academic Rankings, and so that's the best in the country out of all the different institutions that we have here. And again, rankings, you can take them for what they will, but we've been consistently ranked high in many different worldwide rankings over the years. Now, to orient you a little bit more to our location, we are located in British Columbia, and we do have 2 campuses that you can choose from at UBC. We have one in the city of Vancouver, which is a city of 2.2 million people, and we have one in the city of Kelowna, which is a city of 100,000 people. The campuses kind of mirror the population sizes. So Vancouver is the larger campus. Kelowna has a smaller, more intimate community and a more intimate setting. And the distance between the 2 campuses is about an hour flight from Vancouver to Kelowna. So very accessible. You couldn't go to both campuses, unfortunately, when you were studying here. You do have to pick one or the other when you apply. To talk a little bit about the city of Vancouver, I'm a born and raised Vancouverite, so I've been here all my life and I'm never going to leave this place. It's a beautiful city. It's right on the Pacific coast of Canada. It's Canada's 3rd largest city, again with 2.1 million people. We're surrounded by forest, mountains, and ocean, not only in the city, but the campus as well. And you get spectacular views from campus, from the city, from the local ski hills, from Vancouver Island, from Whistler and Blackcomb. All of it's here for you to discover and take advantage of when you're a student here. As I mentioned before, it's quite a temperate climate. When you come out to Vancouver, a lot of people think because it's a Canadian city, you're going to be covered in snow in the wintertime, and that's really not the case in the city of Vancouver. It might get down to freezing, about 0 degrees Celsius in the wintertime, but it doesn't stay that way very long. The one thing you do have to get used to is a little bit of rain. Just like any Pacific Northwest location, we do get quite a bit of rain in the wintertime, but not much snow, and the summers are generally moderate and cool and don't get above maybe 30 degrees Celsius in the summertime. That's probably a very hot day here in Vancouver. Lots of things to do as far as skiing and snowboarding, as I mentioned, but the city itself has a hustle and bustle to it as well. You can go and check out a sporting event, go check out cultural events through the theater. We have an international film festival that comes through Vancouver as well. So lots of things to do as a student when you're looking to choose Vancouver as a location you might want to go to. And as I mentioned before, the Vancouver campus is its own little city amongst a city. It is about 20 minutes outside of downtown Vancouver, so we are separated a little bit from downtown, so it's nice that you're not kind of crowded amongst the city. We have our own space out here. Again, many views of oceans, forests, and mountains all throughout campus, and world-class learning and research facilities as well to take advantage of as a student. So when you choose to come here, not only do you have access to such a great and international city like Vancouver, but you have your own community in the westernmost tip of Vancouver at the UBC campus. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk a little bit more about our Kelowna campus.
Great, thanks Chris, and thanks for that explanation of UBC, the introduction, and then to Vancouver. So I have the opportunity here to tell you a little bit more about the other campus that we have. So we're currently sitting here in Vancouver as we do this interactive presentation with you. The campus that we have is located in the city of Kelowna. Okay, so we call it UBC Okanagan because it's in the Okanagan Valley. The city that it's in is called Kelowna. So just in case there's any confusion for you there, that's how that works out. As Chris mentioned, the city of Kelowna is significantly smaller than Vancouver, so it has about 150,000 people or so in the greater Kelowna area. A lot of students really like that kind of setting. Now, it has a lot of things in common with Vancouver, and that is that there are all kinds of opportunities for outdoor recreation. It's a big tourist destination, so if you are into skiing and snowboarding in the winter, that's available. If you are into water sports in the summer, Kelowna is actually located on a lake. Okay, so the Okanagan campus is also on Okanagan Lake, or Lake Okanagan, which is one of the larger freshwater lakes in Canada. So if you like to be a part of water sports and those things, it's important to know that this is a lake that's actually quite large. So either campus you decide to go to, you'll be on a body of water. Now, there's an interesting history here to the Okanagan campus, and that is that it's relatively new to being a UBC campus. So it became part of us in 2005, and at that time we enrolled 2,500 students. Now, we've now grown to about 9,000. So that means our enrollment has essentially tripled in less than a decade, and students are drawn to it because of the beautiful location, but also because of some of the exciting research opportunities that go on there, and as is mentioned on the slide here, brand new facilities that are built to very, very high environmental standards. So a lot of the laboratories, a lot of these student spaces are brand new, and also a very international campus in terms of our population. Now, the campus itself, as I mentioned, a lot of new facilities, and it's really important to note that we sort of get two kinds of students. Now, actually, I would say three. Some students know right away whether they want the Okanagan campus or the Vancouver campus, and other students are not sure and they want to spend a little more time doing research. So what I would encourage you to do is really look into the different programs that are offered at both, and you'll find, for those of you that like math, you know what a Venn diagram is, that there is some overlap, right? So Vancouver has some programs that are unique to the Vancouver campus, and the Okanagan campus has programs that are unique to the Okanagan campus. And in the middle, there are a lot of programs that we offer on both. So engineering, for example, is offered at both campuses. And if that's the situation, then you just really need to think about which environment you'd prefer to be in. Now, you've heard us talk a little bit about the academics. There are a lot of different programs, as you can see here. And what's important about that is that because we're a large public university, there really is a lot that we do offer. There are very few programs that we don't, some very specialized programs that you may have to look to other campuses for, but for the most part, UBC offers a very comprehensive suite of programs, everything from engineering to the sciences to business to the arts, humanities, liberal arts, social sciences. So one of the other things about that I'll talk a little bit about later on is that we're also quite flexible, and we pride ourselves on the fact that as a student, if you love biology and you also really have an affinity for Spanish language, for example, you can combine those things into one degree, whether that's a major or a minor or just taking some courses in other areas. So touching on that, some of you may be familiar with this concept of a major or minor, but basically we're talking about different specializations. And then of course double degrees, double majors, dual degrees, and other interdisciplinary opportunities. And you'll hear that word interdisciplinary tossed around a lot in terms of UBC, because we really do think it's important for students, if you have multiple passions, multiple areas of interest, to be able to take part and combine all those areas. Now, one of the sort of trends that you'll find certainly in Canadian universities and in some other countries is that we want to give you a very solid and strong academic education. In addition to that, there are a lot of value-added opportunities, right? So opportunities for you to add to your degree and to get some very practical experience. So one of the things that's popular in Canada is a program called co-op, right? Which is where you get to work in your field before you graduate and you get paid, which is a little bit different when you think of an internship. A lot of internships are unpaid. So co-op gives great opportunities across a lot of our faculties where you can actually get a taste of what it's like to work in that field. And that's important because you might get into it and find that that's not really what you want to do, or you confirm that that is actually what you want to pursue in your career, and it really helps motivate you when you get back to your classes. In addition to that, there are all kinds of volunteer opportunities in our cities in Kelowna and in Vancouver, and increasingly opportunities to go abroad to volunteer. And then speaking of abroad, we do have a lot of opportunities, again, to study overseas. So for many of you, you'll be coming as international students here and joining us, and that's fantastic. And you might, after 1 or 2 years, decide, you know what, I've been really enjoying living in Kelowna and Vancouver, but I would like to go on exchange somewhere. So we encourage you to start thinking about that early. You won't typically be going on exchange early. Third year is when most students will take advantage of that opportunity. But it's really important for you to know that exists, and that is a part of what you could take part in if you decide to come to UBC. So not unlike a lot of other universities, but what I think is very interesting about our situation is just the breadth of opportunities for you to go to around the world. Now, again, on this theme of value added, we really, again, are big into clubs and sports opportunities. So sports are a big deal here. We have the teams Okanagan Heat, and here in Vancouver we have the Thunderbirds. We have a lot of very high caliber athletes. If you would like to play varsity sports, you can feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll put you in touch with one of the coaches so that you can find out about how to try out for the different sports that you offer. We are currently have won recently the most national championships of any other university in Canada, so we're very competitive. And you'll find, depending on what sport you're interested in, that we generally do fairly well across the different sports that we offer.
One thing to add to that, Michael, UBC on both campuses is a very robust intramural sports program as well. So the varsity sports program is very competitive. It's tough to get on a team. Our teams are very, very good. So, but if you want to keep playing sports, there's an option to join the intramural program where you can play pickup basketball at different levels of competitiveness. If you've never played basketball before, you want to try, there's a league for you. If you played all through high school and you keep playing at that level, there's a very competitive league as well. So even if varsity sports isn't the pathway for you to stay involved and stay active, there's a bunch of intramural and recreation events throughout the year at both campuses that'll hopefully kind of fill or scratch that itch for you if you want to keep up your athletic pursuits.
For sure. And a lot of those intramural events are a big part of the fabric of the university culture here. So one event that you can certainly Google and look up online if you're interested is called Storm the Wall. It happens at both campuses, and it's kind of a relay that you participate in with your friends, and then you have to scale a wall at the end. So it's, there's a joke here that you're not allowed to graduate until you complete Storm the Wall. It's of course not true, but it is one of the largest intramural events in the country. So something for you to look into as well if you're interested in sport, but maybe not as competitively as varsity sports. Now, just finishing up here with residence before we move on to the admissions piece, which Chris will start with you in a moment. And that is, of course, it's very important to a lot of students to be able to live on campus. Okay, so we don't require you to live on campus, but you do have priority if you're a first-year student. So when we say generally co-ed, what we mean is that the buildings themselves are co-ed, so you may be in a shared room, same gender, or you may be in a single room. And some floors, some buildings will be, male, female, different floors, and then some will not be. Some will have different buildings, male, female. So there's a lot of different opportunities for that. I would certainly encourage you to live on campus if this is your first year here. And then in upper years, not all students do get to live on campus, unfortunately, but there is a lottery system, and I think we've been able to accommodate around 70% of students who are applying. That may change, but what happens often is that you make great friends in first year and you want to move off and rent a flat yourselves anyways. So something for you to think about. And certainly when you apply online, you actually have to apply for housing. It's a separate application, but you can sort of tick it off. But you just have to be aware of that if you're thinking of applying, that we're not assuming that you're going to live in residence. You have to tell us if you want to live in residence. So we're happy to take questions on this sort of overview of UBC on both campuses later. Right now I'm going to turn over to Chris, and he's going to introduce you to the admissions process.
All right, thanks, Michael. So a lot of you probably have questions about admissions to UBC. That's where we get the bulk of our questions, and definitely why we put this part of the presentation at the end, because it leads into our Q&A session. So UBC is a very competitive school as far as admission is concerned. You have to meet general and program specific requirements when you're looking to come to UBC. All students, no matter where they're studying, also must meet the English language admission standard, and we'll talk a little bit about how you meet not only the general and program specific admission requirements, but also the English language admission standard. UBC is also well known for giving generous first year credit when it comes to AP classes, IB higher level and some standard level classes, A levels, and French baccalaureate classes as well. So we'll talk a little bit about all these things as we go through the next slide. But the best resource you could have is our website. If you go to you.ubc.ca, you'll find the general and program specific requirements for all different admissions criteria around the world. We're going to cover a few of the main ones, but just to get you thinking and to get you thinking about what we might be requiring. You do have to be following a college prep program, which essentially means going through a high school program and graduating from that high school at an accredited institution from whatever country you're currently studying in. And again, admission to UBC is competitive, and you'll be asked to submit different documents that help us make an admissions decision when it comes to your own case. We are very fortunate in that we do not have quotas or certain numbers that we need to meet for students, and so students that are academically eligible and meet the admissions criteria generally get some sort of admissions letter from us at some point. We are looking for strong academic achievement in your junior and senior years, so your final 2 years of high school are traditionally the years that we've looked at for admission. UBC is also one of the only schools within Canada that will look at your extracurricular achievements and interests across the board. So you will be asked to fill out what's called a personal profile, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but we do want to find out more about you outside of academics. So things like varsity sports or clubs, or if you play a musical instrument, or if you have some work experience. We want to know a little bit more about you when you're applying to UBC. So let's start. So for all students that are studying the American curriculum, so obviously these are students studying within the United States on a traditional American system, or if you're studying at an international school overseas where the basis in the curriculum is the US system. What we do want to see is that you take an English to the senior level, 3 other full year senior level academic subjects, and the appropriate program prerequisites. And what that means is that if you're looking to go into something like sciences or engineering, we're going to want to see specific courses that you've taken in your junior and senior year. So for engineering, we do want to see chemistry and physics. For sciences and calculus. For sciences, we do want to see pre-calculus at least, math to the junior level, all these sorts of requirements. Essentially, if you're looking to go into a sciences program or a health sciences or a business program, you're probably taking the courses that you're interested in because you want to keep up in sciences, and you're probably taking science classes. Also, for students studying in the American system, we will ask you to submit an SAT or ACT score. The SAT score we're looking for is around a range between 1700 and 1900, which is an overall score on the 3-part test. For the ACT, we're looking that you achieve something in the mid to high 20s on the ACT score. Now, unfortunately, we do not superscore any sections of the SAT, so your best overall score in one sitting will be what we take. Now, having said that, the SAT or ACT, we really focus on the junior and senior year GPA more than we would on an SAT or ACT score. So if you're within that 17 to 1900 range, that's going to be competitive for an SAT score, and then we'll really focus in on your junior and senior year. As we mentioned, we do give out credit for AP classes, but you must write the AP exam to be eligible for advanced credit with your APs. So that's the American curriculum. We have a lot of students that study the IB diploma. If you don't know what the IB diploma is, that's okay. You're probably not in the program. But if you are at an IB school and you're completing the IB diploma, UBC is one of the top schools when it comes to receiving IB transcripts. And so we're very familiar with the IB diploma. What we will look at is we will look at a total overall score for admission. So we'll take your predicted scores that come out in January of the IB diploma program, and we'll use that as a basis of admission. We will not require an SAT or ACT for an IB student. We will take you based on your IB predicted scores. What we also do is we give additional points for the extended essay and the TOK portion of the IB diploma, and we do give advanced credit for IB higher level classes and IB standard level language classes as well. And so you can get advanced credit with your IB diploma if you're coming with higher level classes and some standard level language classes as well. The British pattern system, so if anyone is completing A levels or GCSEs, we will take a look at your A or AS levels that you have completed in your British pattern school. You need standing in at least 5 academic subjects, including English, with at least 3 A-level classes or 6 AS-level classes, or a combination thereof. So if you're taking 2 A levels, you would need at least 2 more AS levels to be competitive for admission. Again, a lot of this information is on our website, and you can find the curriculums of specific countries. So if I didn't mention your specific country, if you're coming from Kenya or Turkey or Lithuania, many different countries are on our website, and you can find out more information about the specific curriculum requirements that we have in your home country. Final thing I'll mention about admission, I mentioned it before, is that every student must meet the English language admission standard to attend UBC. Now, there are a variety of ways of doing this. If you're studying at an English language school or in an English-speaking country and have been doing that over the past 4 years, you will automatically meet the English language admission standard as long as you're taking English courses and not English as a second language classes. There is a list of international schools that automatically meet the English language admission standard, and if you're studying in the United States traditionally, or an English-speaking country for that matter, traditionally you will meet the English language admission standard by simply studying at that school. If you're in a country where English is not the first language and you're at a school in that country where the language of instruction is not English, you will need to meet the English language admission standard through one of a variety of ways. Most students either take the TOEFL or the IELTS test to meet our English language standard, and you can see the TOEFL requirements at the bottom of the screen. The IELTS test is an overall 6.5 with no portion lower than 6 to meet our English language admission standard. So again, you need to meet the academic requirements with your academics, with your junior and senior year classes or your IB classes or diploma, and then you also need to meet the English language admission standard.
Great, and just to reiterate, sort of sum up some of what Chris is saying, is that we're giving you a very quick overview here. So we're not trying to get into details about what you need to apply to engineering, what you need to apply to commerce, those sorts of things. But we strongly recommend that you do the research and look into it yourselves. So it's very well laid out on our website, yu.ubc.ca. You can find out all about the English language admission standard, as well as any courses that you'll need to apply. So we're just trying to give you a quick overview, and again to reiterate that we're not going to answer every question about every program from every curricula today, because we really think that that's important for you to go and take a look at. So with that, before you apply, I'm going to talk about the application process, and then we'll get to questions in a few slides here. You want to do the research, make sure that you have the prerequisite courses, make sure you know what the programs are offered at UBC. There are some great resources for that we'll talk to you about later. Of course, one of them has been mentioned, the website. There's also something called the academic calendar, which has a very detailed look at programs. If you want to check that out, you can do. Now, applications are open right now, and when you apply to UBC, you have two choices. You can apply to two choices at the Okanagan campus if you want to a Vancouver, or one at each. The important thing to remember is that we evaluate your first choice first. So basically, we're saying that when you tell us that this is your first choice, we trust you that that is what you want the most. If you're accepted to your first choice, then in most cases, we will not evaluate your second choice. If you're not accepted into your first choice, then we will look at your second choice. So I say that just to remind you that it's important to put the thing you like the most first. As you're completing this application, Chris mentioned the personal profile, which is 5 to 7 short answer essay questions. Okay, so we're talking 200 words max, personal profile types of questions. So questions about who you are, what you've learned outside of the classroom, and what you bring to the university, and things like that. Okay, so you apply for housing as well. Back to the personal profile just for a moment. Put some time and some thought into it. You definitely want to answer it as well as you can. It is an important component alongside your academics, but I wouldn't lose lots of sleep over it. Do the best you can and tell us about yourself, okay? Student housing, you can apply and then you pay the application fees and submit. Now, this is pretty straightforward. We will then follow up with you and send you an email about what kinds of documents we want. So if you're in the US curriculum, we will want a first semester transcript from senior year. If you're from the IB, we will want your predicted grades, right? It's different for each country as well for national curriculum. So don't worry, we'll tell you all about that. Now, tuition, these are the costs for this current year. Keep in mind that they go up every year by around the rate of inflation, so 2 to 3%. So whatever you're budgeting for your first year, you can count on your last year costing about 10% or so more than that. So that's important when you're sitting down with your families to budget. The tuition fees do typically go up each year. There's also a great resource. I'll just move on to the cost here and give you a ballpark sort of estimate. I would say you want to be looking at around $40,000 and above would include tuition and living costs for the coming year. Now, we have a great resource. Go online, just Google UBC cost calculator. It's fantastic. You put in the degree you're studying in and whether you're going to live in residence or not. It tells you a pretty good approximation of what the different costs will be. Now, along with costs, of course, we talk about financial aid. So very briefly, again, we have very few comprehensive international scholarships, but those ones are called the International Leader of Tomorrow Award, and there's one that we now call the Don Waring International Scholars Award. Those, again, are on our websites. They are comprehensive awards that provide for need-based students who have very strong academics as well as leadership in their schools. Now, we have some very small-ish merit-based entrance awards between $25,000 and $7,000, and then we have very few opportunities in upper years. So the message here is that you really need to think about with your family how to cover the cost of all 4 years. You can't count on scholarships to do it, except for the case of the International Leader of Tomorrow Awards, because those are based on need, and those will sort of meet the level of need that students and families have. For more information, please reach out to us. We're happy to give you all the information that we can about this, so you can make a good decision as to whether or not you should be nominated for those awards. There are work opportunities on campus. After 6 months of living in Canada, you can work off campus. I mentioned co-op earlier, which is where you get paid while you're doing your degree. So these are other opportunities. Again, you don't want to count on these opportunities, so don't show up in first year thinking you're going to work 20 hours a week. You probably won't, because you have to study. So the main thing is to focus on your studies and to give yourself room that if you don't end up getting some employment, that you can still cover your costs for your education. Now, one great benefit of studying in Canada is that once you graduate, you can apply for a Canadian work permit. It's called a post-graduation work permit that allows you to start your career in Canada. So, those are some great opportunities for you to think about. Now, again, if you are coming to Canada, you will have to apply for a study permit. In some cases, you will need a temporary resident visa depending on the country you're from. You don't need to worry about that. You apply, it's the same process to apply. The website is here, www.cic.gc.ca. And again, you can apply for this until you get accepted to UBC and get an admission letter. So you don't have to worry about this right now, but it is important to be aware of it because you can't actually come and study in Canada if you don't apply for these documents. So that about finishes our presentation. We're going to move to the question and answer part. And again, you can take a tour. You can head online. We've mentioned this website a number of times. You can certainly get in touch with us anytime you want via Facebook. We have, of course, Twitter. And then a great place to check out, actually, is on YouTube. We have a lot of great videos that give you an idea of what the campuses look like. Now, we're going to take questions for 15 minutes. And then we're coming back with another session, right, which is about student life, which is fantastic. If I were you, I would definitely think about it.
You should certainly stick around.
Right, Chris agrees. We're going to have 2 real live UBC students, and they are going to be entertaining your questions as well. And you're going to get a really great perspective of what it's like to be a student currently. Chris and I were students some time ago.
Yeah, we won't say
we'll
when.
Leave it at that.
We won't say when.
And to do that, all you have to do when you're done this session is click the back button, and then you'll go to a page, and then you just click enter again. You'll enter the new session. Okay. So with that, we want to take as many questions as we can. We have some up here already, and we'll get to it. Feel free to type questions in the chat box. And if we don't address your exact question, don't worry. We're just trying to amalgamate in some cases and get as much covered as we can. So we have a question. What is the best about UBC? So to answer that question fully,
that's from Andrea.
Andrea, thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Talk to the students in the next session. They'll tell you what's the best about UBC for sure. Okay, so we have our own opinions, but talk to the students about that.
All right, so Tiani asked about the timeline for the offers of admission. So what we try to do is as soon as you apply to UBC, we send you that list of documents that we require, just like Michael was mentioning before. And then really the earlier you can get those documents into us, the better. Because as soon as we start getting information, we do admissions based on a rolling system. And so we try to admit students as quickly as we possibly can, because we know that you're going to get a lot of offers of admission out there. So the best thing to do is to make sure you have an up-to-date email address, that you have your junk filter off in your inbox as well, because we will contact you about when you will receive or when you should be sending in your documents for admission. We do know about the May 1st decision deadline in the United States if you're looking at applying to colleges there. We don't, as a university, adhere to the May 1st decision deadline, but we do try to get out offers of admission before that time so you can decide along with all the other schools that you have offers of admission for.
Great, and we have another question here that is about what letter grades are required. So the thing is, it depends on what curriculum you're on. Let me give you a few things. If you're on the British pattern curriculum, we're mostly looking for A's and B's, okay, in your O levels and your A's that we're looking at. The other thing to look at is the US curriculum, which is where we commonly get letter grades. And I'll say this, it depends. Because in some schools, a 95 is an A, in other schools, a 92 is an A. But generally speaking, we say B+ to A-, or in a GPA, we would say around 3.7. Or we will say something like mid-80s, okay? So depending on the curriculum you're on, that may not translate exactly, but those are ballparks. Now again, we look at strong academics, but we also look at your personal profile. So important to give that some thought as well. Higher is usually better, and if you want specifics for your country, the best place to look is online.
We had a question about deadlines from Natalie. Thanks, Natalie, for writing in about that. The deadlines to apply when the application is available. The best part about that is the application is available online right now.
Right now.
Now. So you can go online and apply right now at you.ubc.ca, and I'll just throw the website up there again. Now, as Michael was mentioning, you want to take some time and fill out that online application because you do have to fill out that personal profile as well. You want to make sure you take some time. Now, as long as you submit that online application by December 10th, you will be evaluated for possible scholarships and possible things that you might want to add on, like scholarships or financial opportunities. The absolute last deadline to apply will be February 3rd of 2014. So now that, when we say applying, we mean getting your online application in. That does not mean you need to have all of your documents and transcripts to us by that time, because in some cases your documents won't be ready until after February 3rd. So just make sure you get the online application in, and then we'll send you a list of all the documents you need to send to us. But again, the application is open now. You can go to the website that is on your screen, yu.ubc.ca, and apply right after this session. Right after the student session that you're going to watch after this.
For sure. Now, you may notice that Chris and I are talking maybe a little fast. That's because we're trying to fit in lots and lots of questions that you're asking us. But do note that we will be sending you a link to this presentation so you can view it afterwards. So we are recording it. We're intentionally going a little bit faster here to try and cover as much as we can. So, question from Natalie about are AP courses required? They are not required if you're on U.S. curriculum. Okay, so AP courses are offered actually a lot in Canada as well, and lots of different curricula around the world, but they're based off of the U.S. curriculum. They are not required. Few good things why you might want to take an AP course are that we do consider them for advanced credit. So if you score a 4 or a 5 on an AP exam, we can give you advanced credit. Advanced credit means we give you credit for a class in university so that you don't have to take it when you get here. They are a very good preparation, so we certainly wouldn't discourage you from taking AP courses. And depending on what you're heading into, you really want to consider which AP courses you might want to take. They are required for some programs, or at least an equivalent senior level, especially when you look at things like engineering and stuff like that. APs are a good idea, chem, physics, math, but again, not necessarily required.
Yeah. We had a question from Addison about do commerce degrees fly in the United States? No, because they're degrees and pieces of paper. They don't fly. No, I think what you mean is, are they recognized in the United States? And they are. We have major companies that come up here and recruit our students not only in commerce, but many other degrees. So companies like IBM, Google, Microsoft, Boeing, HSBC, tons of international companies, Volkswagen, Toyota, are always looking to hire UBC students. And so your degree from the University of British Columbia will be recognized no matter if you're back down in the United States, if you're working in Hong Kong, London, Paris, any of those sorts of things. It'll definitely be recognized if you get a degree from here.
Now we have a question from Jakey as well about pre-med. So let me unpack this one a little bit. We're gonna have to talk about this one a little bit. The issue with medicine in Canada is that there are very few spaces for international students. And unfortunately at UBC, we actually don't have any spaces for international students. The reason being is that the spaces in medicine are reserved for Canadian citizens and permanent residents because we currently have a shortage of doctors in the province of BC. So we're trying to keep everyone who's trained here in the province because we don't have enough medical professionals. So having said that, you can certainly take pre-medicine courses here, and there's no actual pre-med track or pre-med faculty. What a lot of med schools are looking for is certainly some prerequisite science courses, and what I would encourage you to do is look at all kinds of different medical schools and see what they require. The other caution I would say is, so you could, for example, be looking at US schools, other Canadian schools. Again, the spaces in medicine tend to be limited, and so you might find that you get all your way through a 4-year degree of pre-medicine and you might not have access to a medicine program. So you need to know that just ahead of time. Now, depending on what country you're joining us from, I know that a lot of students, you can go directly into medicine out of high school. That's the way it works in some countries. So you want to give some consideration and weigh the opportunities that you may have in your home countries or in other countries before you come all the way overseas, because again, you have to do typically a full degree before you go into medicine here in North America. So it really is in your best interest to do a lot of research. And again, we unfortunately don't have any medicine spaces here at UBC for international students.
So Miranda asked, does being a Canadian citizen in the United States impact you on your application? So the answer to that is not really. You are going to fill out the same application whether you are a Canadian student or an international student. So you're going to fill out the personal profile. You're going to let us know what programs you want to study. The only place where that is different is that Canadian citizens, no matter where they are living, will pay domestic student tuition. And so it is a discounted rate because we are, again, a public university. We do give a subsidized rate for Canadian citizens no matter where they're living. So the only time it'll impact you is when you're paying tuition as a Canadian citizen, and it's a big benefit for Canadian citizens that want to come back here and study, and we're always happy to see those Canadian citizens overseas when we go and travel abroad to talk to students in their high schools.
Great. We have a question from Jakey about the student-teacher ratio. Great question. Overall, we have a 15-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio. Now, that requires some breaking down. You will sometimes have some larger lectures in first year. If you're doing first-year econ or first-year psychology, having a lecture is actually quite an effective way to deliver that kind of course material. Now, having said that, even in our larger classes, we break those down into smaller little groups. So, as an example, when I was a student here, I took a first-year religious studies class, which I enjoyed immensely. It had lectures, but we also had discussion groups every Friday where we'd break out into smaller groups of no more than 20 with a graduate student, and we had a chance to discuss the lecture material there. I also took a Mandarin class in first year that had 12 students. Okay, so it depends on the field that you're in and what classes you're in. Generally speaking, our classes get smaller as you get into upper years. Okay, and again, it depends. But if you want the straight stat, it's a 15-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio. Just one more quick question, or Chris, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, nothing to add. If you want to keep going off of some of the questions.
Zhi has a question: is the Gaokao required? So this is a test for those of you that aren't aware that it's written in China typically for university admissions. And no, the Gaokao is not required for UBC. We're mostly going to be looking at the grades that you have on your Gaozhongbi or Zhongshu, right? So your upper middle school graduation certificate. And that's what we look at more so, are the grades that you get in your high school.
One question we did get is, if I get advanced credit, will it shorten my degree at UBC? And technically, yes. I mean, you are going to get advanced credit. You are going to get credit towards your UBC degree. Is it going to shorten it so you could finish your degree in 3 years or that sort of thing? Probably not. You might get, 12, 18 credits, which is a significant amount to get you on your way. But typically, students still graduate within 4 years or 4.5 years at UBC. But if you do have AP credit, A-level credit, IB higher level credit, some French baccalaureate credit, it will cut down a little bit of the courses you would need to take to complete your degree here at UBC.
Okay, so we have a question about, should I wait to apply if I plan to retake the SAT? No, you don't have to wait to apply. I mean, the thing is, if you want to take the SAT multiple times, you can send us all of those scores. And as was mentioned earlier by Chris, we are looking at a score that you get on one test. So we're not going to take your critical reading and your math sections from 2 tests and combine those. So you don't have to wait to apply. You can go ahead and apply. You certainly want to get those SAT scores in as soon as you can. You don't want to be writing the SAT again in May, for example. But if you're going to be taking it this fall, there's no real incentive for you to wait, because we'll get your SAT scores downloaded automatically, and so that's fine.
And the best thing about that is we'll take your best score for admission, and so we'll always take the best attempted score. One other question that we had before, we've been getting a lot of questions about specific admission requirements to programs. I do want to emphasize that you should go to the website, check out the admissions portion of the website, and find the program-specific admission requirements online. So we're not going to go through engineering and business and all those different sorts of programs out there. We want you to do a little bit of work and check out the different requirements for the different programs that you might be interested in, because it's going to take quite a while to go through all the different programs that we do have here. So make sure you do the research and find out a little bit more on your own. We did have a question about nursing. Nursing at UBC, much like the medical program, most of the spots are held for Canadian citizens, and so if you're a Canadian citizen, you would apply to the nursing program through the online application. It is a second-year entry program, so typically students start in another faculty or program and then apply to nursing after that year. But again, for international students, unfortunately, because we want more nurses here in British Columbia, we hold spots mainly for Canadian citizens in our nursing program.
Great, and we have one more question here. We'll probably close it off after this, but the question is from an IB graduate: do I need a completed IB diploma? this is complicated. So let me explain. If you are currently doing the IB program, we are going to evaluate you based on predicted grades. Now, if you've already finished your high school studies, then the IB diploma is one diploma that you can use to apply to us. If you haven't completed that diploma, then you can't use that diploma to apply to UBC. However, some students will complete a different kind of diploma. So for example, a US diploma, but along the way they've taken some IB certificate courses. And that's fine. You can certainly use IB diploma courses, so IB certificates, to apply as part of another high school diploma. But the key here is you have to have finished high school somewhere. So someone has to have given you a high school diploma for you to be eligible for UBC out of high school.
The final one we're going to go through is just a simple timeline. I'll break it down for you again of kind of the application and admissions decisions, those sorts of things. So the first things first, if you want to come for September 2014, you can apply right now. So you can go online, head to our website, start filling out the application. So you can apply right now. The first thing you want to do is take a look at your email. We'll send you an email with all the documents that we require to complete your application. The earlier you get those documents in, the faster we can admit you and evaluate you for admission. We do get admissions decisions out starting as early as January all the way up until late March for our students. Because again, we are aware of that May 1st decision deadline for US schools, and we do try to get you offers of admission before that time. So just to break it down one more time, you can go home tonight, or you're probably at home already watching us. After the student presentation, go online, apply online right now, fill out the online application, get the list of documents we need to complete your application, and get your high school counselor, your college counselor in your school to start helping you send the documents and the documents required to complete your application. And the bulk of our decisions come out between January and late March.
So we're going to end on that note. We are grateful for your time. We're glad you joined us today. It's been our pleasure to tell you more about UBC. The contact information I'm going to just put up here one more time. And we would encourage you to stick around because in 10 minutes you can come back. So again, you click back on your browser, then you click enter, you join us again, and we have two students that are going to tell you about their fantastic experiences at both campuses. So you'll get a bit of a taste of what it's like to be on the Okanagan campus as well as the Vancouver campus. Get in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter. You can email us as well. And again, thanks for your time.
Good night, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon.